No, it's all right. I'm going to sit here. I know. It's so funny. Hello. Hi, everyone. How's everyone going tonight? Good. How good is it to have summer back already? Should be a cold winter's night. Instead, it's a midsummer evening. Before we get started tonight, I just want to hand over to the wonderful Auntie Rox. Where are you to acknowledge country for us? Auntie Rox.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you, Dan. Yes, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which we are meeting tonight, the Turrbal and the Yagara peoples, and to extend that welcome to you, being in our play briefing audience tonight. And we're really excited and so glad you're all here to hear about Hannah's beautiful play, and just to all pay our respects to elders past and present. Thank you. And to elders in the audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Rox. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's play briefing for Don't Ask What the Bird Looked Like by Hannah Belansky. Woo! Directed by Roxanne McDonald in her directorial debut with Lee Lewis. I do feel a bit like the naughty child on the ground here, but that's okay. I'm going to embrace that, and it's probably quite true. My name is Danielle Evans, and I'm an associate artist here at Queensland Theatre, and so it's my pleasure to welcome you here this evening as well. Tonight it's about illuminating parts of the artistic process that would otherwise remain hidden from you when you sit there and watch the play in a couple of weeks' time. So this is your kind of like behind-the-scenes sneak peek chance to get all the secrets about the production and hear a bit more about some decisions that these guys are going to be making as they bring this beautiful play to life. Don't Ask What the Bird Looked Like, this is a sore point, was originally slated for our 2022 program, but a rather wet weather system had other plans. So when the floodwaters decided to enter stage left, the decision was made to exit this play stage right. And our very talented and very patient playwright, Hannah, has waited 2 years to bring the story of her main protagonist, Jane, to you. Joan. And what a wonderful creation Joan is. The character of Joan caught the eye of both Roxanne and Lee when this play was entered as part of the 2018 and 2019 Queensland Premier's Drama Award. It didn't win that award, but it won 2 huge fans who are now co-captaining the production. In Don't Ask What the Bird Looked Like, Joan is a young woman who needs her father. She hasn't seen him since he left her and her mum when she was just a little girl. She wants answers, she wants history, she wants to know more about who she is. And so she travels to meet him into country that is as remote as it is strange to this city girl. When Joan finds her father Mick, he doesn't say much and bears little resemblance to the man who taught her to play Scrabble as a girl. But amid the flies, the heat, the dust, and the stillness of this small river town lurk many ghosts and mysteries. And Joan is about to discover some family secrets that have been hidden for decades. Cue intrigue. If I could ask this wonderful team of creatives to introduce themselves now and the role they play in the production. And we might go from the person at the end in the black and white jumper.
Hi everyone, it's Lee Lewis and I am the very, very proud co-director with Roxanne McDonald of Hannah's beautiful play, which is finally here.
I'm Hannah, I'm the writer. My name's Matilda, I am a Durrell woman and I'm playing Joan.
My name is Alex and I'm the dramaturg.
My name is Roxanne and I'm co-directing with Lee Lewis, and I'm a proud Mandinjanji, Durrell and Wangan woman of Western and Central Queensland.
My name is David Walters and I'm the lighting designer.
Hello, my name is Shakira Clanton. I'm a proud Wangan Yamajinyunga Gidja woman from Perth, Western Australia, and I'm playing Patty.
Hello, I'm the Sweats, and I'm the composer and sound designer.
Hi, my name is Chloe, and I am the second costume designer.
Now, one vital member of the cast is missing tonight, and that is Michael Tuahini, who plays Mick. He is unwell and unable to join us this evening. I'm not going to ask all of the questions tonight, which is where you come in. So if you have any burning questions when you're sitting there and you go, oh, I wish Dan would ask this, hold on to that question, and I'll come over to you at the end, and we'll see if we can get those answered for you. All right, let's kick this off. Hannah, 2 years. It's here, it's happening. Do you mind telling us where this play came from? And a bit about your journey with it, and if it's changed, I guess.
So I started writing the play in 2017. It's my first play, and I began writing it, I guess, at a time in my life, early 20s, trying to know more about myself, feel connected to my cultural heritage and my family, and just having lots of questions about who I am and what my identity is, and all of that, really. So that was the entry point into the play. And I wrote a few scenes which I wrote a few scenes. I met Alex, actually. This is the story. So I met Alex Bayliss, was working at Playlab Theatre in the foyer here at a Q&A for Constellations by Nick Payne, which was in the 2017 season, and was telling him about this idea that I had, and Alex, and I'd applied for a few Playlab programs, and Alex then, which I didn't get accepted into, but then Alex remembered my play idea, and Playlab ended up asking me to come in as a young playwright in residence there. So in that residency, I wrote a few scenes, which I then submitted to the Queensland Premier's Drama Award, and I really didn't think that I was going to get very far with it. In fact, I wrote the application so last minute that the deadline closed, and I had no room on my computer, so I deleted all the files, and then I ended up getting called in. I shouldn't tell the story really, but it's just more that it was just such a, deleted all the files, came in for the interview, and just was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here, and just like babbled my way through it, thinking that, oh my gosh, I sound like I've got no idea what I'm talking about, which I probably sound like now. But then, but you know, it was just the best thing ever, getting to be a finalist for the QPDA, where I was able to develop the play with the support of Queensland Theatre, an amazing team of artists that were involved in that development process. And then, yeah, it was a few years of development, really, to get it to production. So it's been an amazing journey working with lots of different people, and the play has shifted over the years, definitely, as I've grown and developed as a playwright and just as a person. So it's been a long journey, but really excited to be here now. Finally sharing the story.
Thank you, Hannah.
And a very long-winded explanation.
I want to ask Arnie Rocks, congratulations on your directorial debut. I mean, many years in the making. And I guess for yourself and Lee, can you remember what attracted you to this work, or what perhaps struck you when you first read it all those years ago? What was special inside of it, I guess?
Well, for me, I saw the play being read at the Queensland Premier's Drama Awards the first time, and when I saw it, I just said, hey, hang on, that's my country. That's where that's about, my mob out there, like talking about that regional country town, and there were sort of names in there that Hannah used in the play that I knew. I knew this, I suppose more the location than anything, and just the history of what I had, when I was growing up in a really small, it wasn't too bad, but it was a small country town, and we lived on the fringes of the town. So, there are some references in there about, where the mob lived and everything, and that was exactly like my experiences growing up in Roma, out there in the regional town. So, and of course the story did too, because it talks about the mystery of the story, and and home secrets and all this sort of things within families that really sort of always piques your interest, because there's things in there, especially things about that I knew in my family that really, really sort of touched and brought home for me. So, but I think it's a beautiful story. It's just, I think Hannah's done an amazing job, and I think audiences are going to get so much from it. They're going to find lots of different layers and things within there, and they can relate as they might with their own families, and being on a sort of a universal sort of way as well. So that's what really attracted me, and then Lee contacted me, and because it was going to be directed by somebody else earlier in the early piece, but then I was just in the Sunshine Club last year, and then Lee says, "Oh, Auntie Rox, would you like to come and co-direct Hannah's play with me?" And I just went, "Whoa, okay." It's sort of just because I'd only ever directed one once before. And so I'm a bit nervous. I was very nervous. I still am nervous. So, because I've been an actor for so long. But it's a different space. It's a different way of looking at, at a play. And I'm just really grateful to the company and to Lee for, having that confidence in me, after being an actor for such a long time. So, yeah. And thanking Hannah and all the beautiful cast who are working here and all the creatives. My God, we've got an amazing, talented, creative cast here and creatives. Yeah, so that's me. Thank you.
Lee, do you want to speak to?
Actually, it's probably what Rox is talking about insofar as the universal. I saw in the script and then in that first beautiful reading a gorgeous father-daughter story. And a generosity of spirit in a writer who's obviously Hannah is writing a very specific story about a young Aboriginal woman looking for connection. But I also saw the story of so many daughters looking to connect with fathers, absent fathers that they're not connected to, and how hard it is to build that. How the courage to go looking, and then the courage both for a father and a daughter to reconnect across time. And I'm interested in the writers who believe in the shreds of the universal. I grew up with deconstruction maybe, and so any writer that actually has enough hope in them to say that there are strong threads that draw us together despite all the questions, I find that really inspiring. So, I don't know, I found a really beautiful conversation. There are not that many father-daughter plays. There's Lear, that didn't work out so well. There's a bit of Cymbeline, so there's a bit in Shakespeare, but it's not a hugely explored area, and it's been really lovely working in a way that is a different way of working too. Directing can be kind of lonely sometimes, so it's actually really lovely having a partner in crime. For a conversation that's really about families, and we really widened that conversation out further by having a kind of way of working that's a little bit unusual too. But that was about trying to pull the people we need in a room to make a story. This story needed a lot of different kinds of loves and understandings, I think. So because it's really different, and it's not. I'm not going to talk about how, and this is where it gets really tricky, because I can't talk about how it's really different because it'll just spoil the experience. But it's been unlike any other work that I've got to work on, and part of the beauty of that has been sharing that journey with Rox. So thank you, lady.
Amazing. Matilda, you are originating the role of Joan. Do you want to talk through? Can you tell us a bit about who she is, or who she's come to be to you? Is your understanding of her the same as when you first read it, or are you learning more and more about her with each, I guess, rehearsal or run through?
Yeah, I am learning more about her every day. I feel like I had a pretty strong connection to Joan when I first read the script to do the audition, and that's what drew me to it so much, because I could see so much of myself in the character. And I think, as Auntie Rox has said and Lee has said, it has universal themes, but I think being able to sort of explore that disconnection that that comes from, you know, I don't want to give away too much. That kind of cultural disconnection that, you know, that has happened in this country with a lot of people, a lot of First Nations people. I think it was really special to be able to explore, and I've kind of been able to build on that from day one and bring sort of parts of myself to it from my own first-hand experience. So yeah, I guess I don't want to give
I have
away
to say,
too much.
It was also, Matilda did one of the most amazing auditions. It's funny when you meet an actor for the first time in an audition. You cross your fingers that they're going to be great, and then when a great one lands, you try not to get too excited on your face, because you're trying not to like offer the role right then and there. And Rox and I are sitting there trying to signal to each other that we were really, really excited without giving away anything. Because it's been Hannah's seen a lot of people read Joan over the years in different developments, and it's that funny thing, without Joan, there's no story really. She's the person going on this huge journey. And that's not to say that the other characters don't go on their own journey, but she's our first starting point, and it was really exciting. And it's but there are sometimes magic auditions where suddenly a play falls in and you go, oh, this is going to work. No pressure, but that's what happened.
No pressure. I remember I looked up, I did the audition, I kind of looked up, and both you and Hannah were like, and I was like, is that good? Like, you're both like, oh. Like, I think that's good.
I want to come to Alex now, because you said a word before that some of us sitting in the audience might be like, what on, who is that guy? What does a dramaturg do? Do you mind just giving us a little, and what did you do as part of this process?
Well, definitely. So I see the role of a dramaturg is to offer support to a playwright in order to get through sort of initial early drafts of the work and prepare the script to go into a rehearsal room and to be sort of ready for production. That's sort of how I always view it. And that always starts with...
You're like a personal trainer for plays.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit.
Great,
And yeah, sometimes it is a case of it's someone rocking up and going, I don't know if I can do this today. And you're like, we can. I believe in you. It's a lot of
Jump
belief.
on the ground and give me 20.
Yeah. Luckily, you don't have that with Hannah. She's always showing up and pushing really hard to get the most out of her idea and the script. But mainly for this work, like Hannah said, I've sort of been informally attached to the play since 2017, which thank you for reminding me of that year, because I could not remember, but it's been a while. And I feel like over that course in time, Hannah and I have sort of developed as artists, as peers. My work as a dramaturg has sort of developed along the same timeline as your development as a playwright. And like I have great memories of working with Hannah on another one of her scripts in a development, and I remember she brought a draft to the table, and I instantly went, the dialogue in this version is leaps beyond where you were before. And that wasn't to say like the dialogue wasn't excellent, it was just a major step forward as an artist finding their voice, and then you can see how that's translated into this version. But a lot of it was just sitting down with Hannah and working out the intention of what you wanted out of this play. And one of the best things was Hannah had a really clear idea. So that conversation was really short, and then it was just working out how to use these tools that are in Hannah's toolbox as a writer to translate those ideas onto the page so that it can be realized here. And so it was a lot of very deep conversations about sort of the emotional lives of these characters over many coffees was I guess the process for this. And then Hannah, again to her credit, would just go away, and it would usually be a few hours after a meeting. She would literally send me pages of a script being like, have I achieved what we talked about? So it sort of, in terms of the dramaturg playwright relationship, it's one of the dream combinations for me anyway.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't want to do too many spoilers. I may do one tiny one, and I'm sure someone will tell me to be quiet. But Hannah, I'm so impressed. This play, you have real confidence in silences. Like, you give your actors these beautiful silences and that are full of so much. Like you really give the actors a lot of freedom to work in quiet. Was that always in the play, or was that something that's emerged in later drafts, or did you have to write it all out before you could take away some of the dialogue? Or is that just you as a writer that you're interested in these kind of in pauses and quiet and silence, or was it?
It's probably the quietest thing I've written. I think it's hard for me to tell because I've been working on it for so long, but I believe the silences were pretty much always there. Like that first scene, I don't know, you've read.
There's something a little bit magic in the first scene that happens, and I'm going to tell you about it just because you're...
Sorry, am I forcing a spoiler alert?
No, it's not a spoiler, but it was actually the key to the play for Rox and I. Yes. In that first scene, Mick's daughter turns up on his door, literally on his doorstep, and he says, "Jug's on, do you want a cup of tea?" And you can't make a kettle boil faster than a kettle boils. And this play wants the kettle to take that long to boil. And so that essentially, the whole play is built around the timing of how we all deeply know how long it takes to make a cup of tea, and you can't fake that. And there's something in the truth of the cup of tea that informs the whole play, tempo-wise. So it's a different way of thinking about how we communicate. And it was this really funny thing. We started in rehearsal, and you sit around the table and you're reading, right? And you sort of skip over the long pauses because you're getting on with it, and And then the first thing we did was actually just boil the kettle when we first got on the floor, and it takes a really long time, and there's no dialogue. And you go, okay, and that then what they do with the silence, and then how that hands over to the actors space and time to feel in ways that, again, unusual, but necessary. And I didn't know, I didn't know that actually an alternative title for a period of time for this play was A Cup of Tea. And I go, but actually the key of the play is in a cup of tea, for me anyway. And when we when we first played it with that length of time, everything else seemed to find the right tempo. But it's actually driven stage management crazy because we all know how kettles work, right? You can't reset and go back and just boil the kettle again because it takes too short a time. So we kept having to fill the kettle with cold water again to get the timing right. So hats off to the stage management team and their management of the kettle is all I have to say. It's been amazing.
So the world is this kind of quiet, elongated world for quite a while. That Shakira, your character is not quite that, is she? Do you want to tell us a bit about Patty and what she does for this story?
It's just me on stage, being a big loudmouth. I think Patty brings the essence of the elephant in the room, not figuratively. I don't know really what to say without giving it away, but she's just the warmth. Thanks, Sissy. Yeah, the warmth, the loudness, the what are you doing? The truth teller, yeah, that's true. The town, the auntie energy. She just brings all the energies into the space.
Big auntie energy.
Big auntie energy.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. She's a bae. She's a goodie, yeah. Chloe, just before I ask you a question, how complete is this design? Is this 85% or is this almost ready? Because this feels very complete. Usually when we come in for these subscriber briefings, it's like, there's still a few things to put up, but this feels quite substantial.
I mean, we have some equipment that will not be featuring in the show. But
What?
yeah, the workshop team has really killed it. We're 99% done with the space right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. And so it's kind of, we have something very realistic kind of looking set in amongst this sort of more painterly, poetic kind of space. Do you want to talk about the process that you went through to kind of conceive the world?
Yeah, I guess one of the beautiful things about this script is that it sits there's sort of two elements to it, and there's this naturalistic kitchen sink drama, And then there's this spirituality, this kind of otherworldly connectedness, which is about, I think, kind of culture and land that exists in the play. And that was something that I connected really deeply to. And I think that it's really important that the element of land and the Australian outback, and that's like a very important thing to First Nations people, but I think also to a lot of Australians, like we have that connection to country. And that was something that I felt really strongly about, like how do we represent that in a theatre space, right, which is essentially a room. And one of the things that that I think a lot about the Australian bush is the expanse of that. And so what I wanted to do with the design was marry the sort of naturalistic kitchen sink drama as well as the kind of otherworldly spiritualness, and also find a way to represent land. And I don't find it that exciting when you just see a tree, you know, in a theatre space, because it's really hard to do that in a way. You know, we have films to do that, so how do we do that? And through conversations with Lee and Arnie Rocks, we started talking about maps and topographic maps and different ways to express land. So the lines that you see around the space are representing of a topographic map, which is a sort of surrealist way of saying land. So this is my way of saying we are on country, we are on land, and this is a map of land. And the house that Mick lives in was his mum's house, and it's very deeply connected in the story. And so the idea is that the house really feels a part of that land. So you'll notice that the lines of the topographic map actually come out of the weatherboards of the house. So my hope for the design is that there is this sense of like this, you can sit beautifully inside that kitchen sink drama, but it also can take you to sort of a more magical place. And we've done a few little tricks with the design as well, which I think are kind of exciting, one of which is we have an infinity curve at the bottom of the set. And what that allows us to do is create the sense of expanse. So you're not seeing a wall, you're not inside a room, it's a curve, it takes you out, there's an endlessness to it. So I'm hoping that when you see it, that's how it'll read. And it's been a really beautiful collaboration with David and Pete as well, because there's other things that you have to kind of bring in to create that world. And it's been, really lovely to work with them and kind of pass the ball over there to them to kind of bring in maybe a bit more of that naturalism a bit more and heighten those the magical elements as well. One of the things that David suggested, which I think is kind of exciting, is all of the lines have a gloss paint in them, which you can't see right now, but when they're hit with a certain light, they kind of glisten, so that there's a kind of magical element to that.
Wow, beautiful.
Thanks, Dan.
Stunning. How long did it take you to find the log or to choose the log?
Oh my God, this is so funny. The logs weren't actually in the original design, but on like day one of rehearsals, Lee was like, I think we need somewhere to sit here. And we went up to the workshop, and Dan, the production manager, was like, don't worry, I think we've got some trees. And one of the last shows, this was part of the set from one of the last shows, top secret.
Recycling.
Yeah.
Sustainability, people.
An environmental company. So yeah, that's the story.
Amazing. Do they have names? I think you should name it. Okay. I'll wait till the end of Tech Week when you've gone a bit wild. David, I might come to you. Have you seen this under light yet?
At this point in the process, we started focusing this afternoon, so I saw the very first light fall on it this afternoon, and it's exciting. I'm really looking forward to it.
You've lit, I think last time I interviewed you, you lit like 200 plus shows. Is that still exciting, the moment you see light hit a design for the first time?
Yeah, look, the process is not dissimilar to right back in the very beginning, and you know a lot more, but it's always that no matter how much you try and preempt and think about it, because in the rehearsal room you don't have this at all, so your mind is trying to imagine the three-dimensional space around the actors as you watch them working on the rehearsal room floor, and working with Chloe and Pete too, of generating the environment in which the play happens. And it's always exciting. You never know what's going to happen. I wouldn't do it otherwise.
Amazing. Is there anything special in this one that you're really excited by or you're looking forward to seeing?
Yes, but he can't tell you about it.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow, look at me trying to get spoilers. Sneaky secrets. I'm going to come to the sweats now. this is, we've talked about this play being quite quiet at the beginning, but there's obviously landscape to evoke. Are we going to be hearing sounds of the bush, or is there going to be music? Can we give that away? Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm getting in trouble. I'm trying to leak secrets.
Yes, we are going to hear a lot of the bush.
Yep.
Yes, a lot.
All the time.
We've got a lot of speakers buried around the place, in the set, under the set, above the audience. So yeah. So there's rivers, there's birds, insects, frogs.
You can't
kettles.
see what the bird looks like, but you're allowed to hear it.
Yes.
Great.
So, and then the score is made up of the actors, actually. We spent an hour doing a recording session, and the 3 actors and Roxanne all gave me stuff, notes, little things, little bird noises and stuff, which I took away and then chopped up and manipulated, and that is the score that is holding it all together.
Beautiful. Stunning. Okay, I've asked all my questions without getting into trouble, but I'm going to come out to the audience. Does anyone have any pressing questions that are in your mind you want to know, something we haven't covered yet? Yes. So the question is about co-directing and the relationship between the two. How do you both make it work?
I've co-directed a few times actually, and it's just about wanting to be in a room and a story with someone really, and there's such a beautiful journey that Joan goes on, and it's a complex one. She grows up with a white mum and doesn't know her Aboriginal dad, and then goes looking for something beyond, a connection beyond what I can as a white director necessarily explain or lead. And that's where I suppose the initial conversation came in. Hannah had already worked with Roxanne and had loved the process. And we were talking, and it just was a very natural thought to kind of go, what are all the intelligences that you gather in a room? And so that was the beginning of the conversation, really. What do we need in the room? And it's an interesting time in the scheme of directing to kind of go, traditionally the director has been this solo figure. It doesn't have to be. There are all sorts of different ways of making. And when you start cracking that open and letting the structure, letting the plays dictate what the plays need as opposed to ego dictating that there must be one leader, other things are possible. And so that was the starting point. And how we figure out what we do, Roxanne just looks at me and goes, "I've got this," and she, and it's just, and it's, I don't know. I found it a really fluid relationship.
Yeah. I would say that. Yeah, I would say that would be true, Lee, and and I mean, this is the second ever, co-directing gig I've ever had. So I'm learning a lot. I'm, learning heaps from Lee, and I also learn from other, actors and creatives in the room that I think you never stop learning. And, and to have that collaborative sort of mind, that you want. I love it. I want people to, to say things and to jump in and say, well, what about this? What do you think about that? So to me, I think that's one of the, I think the best ways to work, because then you get, you get other, other sort of takes on it, other perspectives. And I just reckon it makes things a lot richer. So, hopefully that's what's happening with this play.
And I think also, when you're making new works, there is no right version of the play. There's just the play that's coming into being. And it's been a really beautiful room of a lot of voices, inspired by Hannah's play. And that's possible when the script is really solid. Sometimes you work on new plays and you're changing things right up until opening night. You're moving things around, and it's incredibly stressful. But sometimes the play is there and you just need to find the way to do it. And that's allowed a whole lot of other conversations. And Shakira and Matilda and Michael have all had really complex conversations in the room that have not changed the play but filled it up. And it's been a real privilege to be a part of those conversations, as opposed to feeling like there's a role of a director to lead that. It's really about shaping what these beautiful actors are bringing to these very strong and clear characters.
Great. Questions? Have you hear anyone? Question? Yes, at the back. Where does the title come from? Hannah.
I can't say much. I actually can't say anything. I'm not going to, sorry.
You just have to follow the instruction. Don't ask.
Oh. Will we find out, though, by the end of the play?
No.
Okay. Well, does that answer? Yes. Next follow-up question?
I don't think it's incorrect. That would be me as a director leaping in. I go, it's just the way the sentence wants to be spoken.
Come and see the play, it'll make sense, I swear.
Love it. Anyone over here, any questions? Yes.
It was based on a topographic map. So that's the idea. It's supposed to be the lines of a topographic map. So when you look at maps which are all sketched out and they're showing the height and the depth of the land through contour lines. Thank you, David. That was the inspiration for that. So that's that visual representation of land through the use of a topographic map lines. But we've abstracted it, obviously. We don't have the grid lines in or the degrees and things written on it. It's an abstraction of that, yeah.
There was also a really lovely conversation that Chloe was having about how to embed the building in the landscape, because when you drive through the country, you see houses that are obviously they're built forms. It's not like seeing a rock, but there's so much a part of the land that they're in that you kind of I don't know, the colours are almost the same. They've taken on the colour of the dust that blows up against them over years, and you kind of go, they're so embedded in it, it's like they've grown up, and you kind of get the feeling that at some point the land will claim it back again. Yeah. That being said, this is a very well-built deck. It's going to take a lot of work for the land to claim this back, but...
Also, there's a really beautiful little Easter egg in this set. Hannah, Auntie Rox, David and I, and Hannah's beautiful mum and grandmother went for a road trip to Gadooga, which is the land that Hannah's family is from. And we went to actually the site that her grandmother grew up on, and there was a piece of tin, which was possibly from the original house. And I picked it up and brought it back, and it's actually hiding down here underneath the set. It's a real bit of the real house that the play was sort of inspired by. So, little Easter egg.
That. Amazing. I also love the deck.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
It's really good to sit on.
Yeah, it feels good. Questions? Yes, up the back in the red.
How many kettles?
How many kettles do you have?
Well, we've got the one we've had in rehearsal, which actually we'll do a transfer because there's anyway, it's a little bit complicated, but one kettle at the moment.
But I know.
A lot depends on that one kettle.
The kettle needs an understudy just in case.
And there's also the thing of there's one thing to say you're having a cup of tea, but then you get to what kind of tea are you okay to drink night in, night out? So there've been many conversations and many cups of tea in the making of the play.
Are we going to talk about something else that gets made in the show or not?
Oh, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because something else is made, which I actually have been smelling in the office all week, and it is delicious.
There's a meal that gets made in the play.
I want the recipe.
It's not an action film play, this one. It's just like the biggest action that happens is this beautiful meal that gets cooked, and there's a curry.
Yeah. Which the challenging part of the curry was, now they don't do anything crazy with the curry, but eating on stage, I mean, I spill food on myself all the time. And it was a yellow curry. And so me and the beautiful ASM Tia spent literally an entire afternoon trying to come up with curry recipes that wouldn't stain the costumes, because yellow curry gets embedded into clothes. So the office has been smelling curry.
I know. Explains why I've been
We
craving.
did find one, by the way, so if anyone needs a non-staining curry recipe, hit us up.
See Chloe afterwards. Any other questions out there? Yes, up the back, yes. Can you spell your job title?
DRAMATURG.
Amazing. Any other questions over here? Yes, yes. Are the lines representative of the land you saw, Chloe?
Look, no. Actually, we didn't take that trip until after I'd had to do the design presentation. So the trip has been really amazing in terms of just like adding the detail into the world and things that just feel a bit more real. But yeah, so they're not literal. But what I did try to do was look at like maps. So one of the key things in this show is the river, and they speak about the river a lot, and they go to the river. We were lucky to visit the real river, which was amazing. And so the lines, for us in this show, the audience become the river. And so the lines around the edge of the seating bank sort of represent what you would see on a topographic map near a river. So, but then I did some sort of tricky little things. You'll notice that the house doesn't have a roof, but what I did with the lines at the top of the house was to try and create the illusion of a peaked roof. So they're not literal, but they're kind of suggestive in that way. Yeah.
I've got a follow-up question for that. Hannah, when you first saw this set, did you kind of lose your mind a wee bit? Like, it's actually a thing.
Yeah, I was like, wow, no going back now. No, I absolutely love the set. I think Chloe's done an amazing job. I love coming in here and looking at it, and it's just been one of the most amazing parts of the whole process is having, being alone with the story for so long, and then having all these other brilliant minds come in and imagine the story for themselves and to see how they've interpreted it, and have those people be part of the process. It's so exciting. It's so special.
And it's a real honour and a privilege to be a part of the team that creates the inaugural work, because it's a really special thing to hold. And I feel so honoured to be designing Hannah's first professional show. That's a really special thing to get to do as a designer. So, there will be more productions of this in the future, but we are the team that did it the first time, and that's a real special, privileged place to be.
Amazing.
There was a production of David Williamson's The Club done in Adelaide about 3 or 4 years ago with a group of women in this very abstracted and kind of absurdist version. And I look forward to 30 years from now, people having the freedom to take a play and make a very different version of it. But in the first production, you're always looking for the play to be the vision of the playwright. There was a kernel of an idea that Hannah had at a point, an idea that she wants to put into the world in a particular way. And there's a big responsibility in that first production to try and manifest that, as opposed to, and that's for the actors and the designers and directors, resisting the temptation to reauthor it for what you want to say. You're really trying to find what the playwright wants to say. And there'll be, like you said, there'll be future productions of this. It's a beautiful piece of writing. There will be tellings of this in so many different ways and places, hopefully around the world. But the first one, it's like someone described it like walking through fresh snow, which is I've used frequently, and sometimes that's a delightful process, and other times, what did you describe it with Drizzle Boy? You're like, the snow has turned to mush and we're crawling through.
Around about week 3, Lee was like, how's the white snow? I said, it's sludge. It's turned to mud. Ah! Then it came good again. Amazing.
Can I just add in, we were very lucky to have Hannah in the room quite a lot and to be able to ask her questions, which it's been really nice because this whole process has been a lot more collaborative than I've ever encountered before, which has made it so much more special. And it also makes you it makes you want to give it more care as well when you've got the writer in the room and they're explaining everything in detail to you, which you don't often get as an actor. You kind of have to make up bits and pieces for yourself. So that's been very special.
I get the impression as hearing you all speak, I think we see a three-hander, 3 people in this show, and we see a house, and it can feel like a little work. But is this a little play? Is this a little play about a big thing, or Yes.
Yeah.
Nodding. Yes.
Yeah,
Mate,
it's a deceptive play. It seems small because it's so recognizable. It's so familiar in some ways, but the back end of this play and the back end of these people, like it sounds terrible when I say it like that, but it opens up into the absolutely ordinary epic that is love. It's huge. And how do we love people? How do we trust people? How do we travel across time and space with people? And honestly, it's only the poets and the playwrights that have answers for us. So it's a huge play. And it asks everything of all of us, even though it starts with a cup of tea.
Great.
There's something in that, though, and I don't know, maybe, again, there's a way that only Australians can tell stories to Australians, but there's something that we code when we say, let's have a cup of tea. The hardest conversations, the worst of times, that tea is one of the mechanisms we have for dealing with those things, and I love that a playwright has started with something that we all do. Even the coffee drinkers amongst us will have a cup of tea when necessary. For the sake of the conversation. And there are huge conversations that happen both in silence and in words in this play.
Great.
Huge.
No, is there a question? I'm looking around the room. No? Oh, yeah, yes. Yeah, of course you can. Stage. Yes. For those who didn't hear that, that was very great question. Double banger, quite long. But one, loves play briefings. Thank you. Two, when David obviously has contributed to some of the creative decision making in the design of the work. Do you want to talk to that, David?
I'm one of the designers of the play. So no, I don't come in at the end and wrap it up in pretty lights. It's a process, and it's one of the joys of working in this industry is it's a collaborative process. We're a group of artists who work together to produce something that hopefully the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So that in working with for me, the process doesn't happen here in the theatre. The process happens a long time ago when you sit down with the people that are involved in it, and I call it the dreaming period, when you actually dream about what is possible to do with the play, what it offers, what it's about, and how we might be able to achieve this. From there, you get into a lot more pragmatics. But it's a wonderful place, and in that place, there's a great deal of discussion and work between the various collaborative artists. So Chloe and I had some wonderful discussions, and I mean, there's a small thing too, Chloe, I don't know if you remember, but when I first saw the model, I pushed the set back.
Yes.
I pushed the house back a foot or two. Now that may not sound like much, but the relationship between the actor and the audience is incredibly important, and part of that relation is the way I can light them, and I could light it better in this position than that position.
So in that sense, you get a better result when you're collaborating and you're talking throughout the design process, because they're not individual elements. You know, like I had made this decision that we wouldn't see the river, which put a lot of pressure on Pete, the Sweats, to create that space for us. But if he didn't want to do that, then how do we create, it has to be a conversation between all of us. And the costumes, for example, I can design something, but these are the people that are realizing these characters. So we have big conversations, big yarns about who are those people and what feels right for that person embodying that, and then I will adapt the design. But it's really important, and it's been a great collaboration between us, I think, for having those conversations early on, because it makes it more special, I think that would be this beautiful element that I wouldn't have thought of, but through having a conversation about how we could enhance it, how we would light it, that came up, and yeah.
And then there are things that come from again, that voice of the playwright. And we're all of us in our different ways trying to find a way to hunt that down. You know, early on, it was a question about, this is even a year before, do we need any projections? Because often one of the other the tools of the last 20 years that have been building are the projection spaces, especially when you're talking about landscapes. And it was an interesting conversation with Hannah going, do you see the thing? She's like, no, I don't. So again, way back at the beginning, it's kind of like, what are the tools that we have? And I'm really glad that you pushed in that direction, away from visual representation, a literal representation in that way. It takes it back to kind of the kind of a beautiful old-fashioned play too, in that thing of the just sound and light and the voice of the actors and the bodies of the actors. There's something really pure about it, which is really lovely. Not that I don't love a bit of AV, but you know, Dorian Gray can only take you so far.
Amazing. We're trying to have like one more question. Does anyone have a burning question they want to ask that they've been sitting on all night and they desperately need the answer to? No? I have a couple that I need to know before we leave. Arnie Rocks, where will you be sitting on opening night? Are you going to be nervously pacing at the back? Because you can't do anything. You're not in it. You've got to watch it. Where are you going to be sitting? Are you going to be nervous, do you think? I know. Do you think you're going to be nervous?
I'm sure. Yes, I will be. I'll be feeling it on everybody, the actors. And I think everybody, you know, you. It's just what you do, you know. I know that because that'll be, you know, I know that feeling of going out there when you've got your opening night, and yeah, I totally understand, and I'm all with everybody and on that front, because we've been there, and I've been there, so I'll be nervous, you bet.
And there's nothing we can do.
No.
Terrifying.
Relinquishing
Genie's out of the
control.
Amazing. I might ask Hannah, my final question is to you. What would you like us to walk away with? Is there something you would like to gift us? Oh, hello.
Well, I guess this is a play that I want everyone to feel welcome in. Like it's a play for everyone, and I think it's about it's love for the characters, and it's love for I think the people in your life, and those feeling, you know, finding a way through those kind of difficult conversations, and feeling like you can have those conversations as well, because that's sometimes the hardest thing. So I think there's a bit of that I would like for you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. The emergence of this barrel boy behind me suggests that we have reached everyone's favourite part of the evening, which is the drawing of the Lucky Door prize in the raffle. So please withdraw your tickets.
Oh, it's got to be Hannah.
Hannah, would you please do the honours? Tonight, if you win, if we pull your ticket, you are heading along to another brilliant First Nations work called Hide the Dog, which is part of Brisbane Festival at QPAC. And fun fact, it's directed by Isaac, one of our artistic associates here, and written by Nathan Maynard. And the winner is... I love this. This never gets old for me. Purple C41. Purple C41. Hey, come on down afterwards and collect your prize. Would you please put your hands together for this amazing cast and crew? And I must mention that the season of Don't Ask What the Bird Looked Like is brought to you by our production partners, Ergon Energy and Energex, who are a part of Energy Queensland. This one has been a long time coming, but I can promise you that it has been worth the wait. So maybe grab a cup of tea before you come in. Or a curry. And please, we really hope that you enjoy this stellar new work from one of our brightest young playwrights in Queensland. Travel safe home. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everyone.